just a boy. My mama said, son, there's more to life than just the girls and fun. Gotta pay your dues like your daddy did. It put him in the grave, but that's the way it is. Wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. The mean old boss, well, he ain't no friend. Watching my life going down the drain. This job of mine is like a ball and chain. I hate the job, I hate the pay. Run myself a ragged till my dying day. What's the point in caring? What's the use in trying? 'Cause at the end of the day, I'm just a slave to the grind.
Good morning and welcome to Doppler's. Oh, wait, that camera today. Doppler's Gear Garage. In case we haven't met, my name is Doug, and this is Doppler's Gear Garage. And as traditionally the case, I do some salutations because it's part of what I do. So, Brenton. What heck time is it there? Over there in Australia. And Sonia. Ditto, what's happening in Germany? Great to see you. Great to see you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Have we got a show for you? All right, first of all, did I actually click on Sonia or did I just say Sonia? Now I clicked on it. Gosh darn it. Midnight. All right, so it's the midnight hour. All right, well, let's just jump right into it. First of all, thanks so much for joining us. For those of you that are kind of hiding there, again, in case we haven't met, my name is Doug, and this is Doppler's Gear Garage, and we talk about gear and all sorts of stuff. Hopefully, Sonny, my dear old friend and a student from many decades ago, is going to show up today. What I've actually started doing is I'm going to each week cover some specific topic around gear. We always cover some sort of lesson sort of content. I'm always here to answer your questions. But Sonny last week had a question. Hello, Mrs. Doppler. There's your salutation. So Sonny had a question about modulation, and so I'm going to wait till he comes back in, hopefully today. 6 p.m. on this side of the pond. Awesome, awesome, awesome. First of all, hi. Second of all, Sonia, you seem to be extremely well-versed in all things gear, but I'm sure you must have something that you have a question about. Jeff Fogarty, my dear, dear, dear friend of so many decades. First of all, you got the first chicken of the day. the show, Jeff. Great to see you, my friend. All right, gosh darn it. Braxo, what's happening? Just got the Distressor 30th anniversary, blah, 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 and it sounds great. Compared it and level matched it with the Distressor ELX8, and man, really love this thing. Awesome. So for those of you who don't know, the Distressor is the world's greatest compressor for so many things. As some of you might know, I am working on a vocal and instrumental album, and Caleb Johnson is the singer, and basically on all of his pre-production vocal tracks, I always add a Distressor, albeit the plug-in, but there is something amazing about that. So congrats. Awesome, 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 awesome. Just bought the Chase Boost Mood Mark II to hook it up with the Fulcrum. Awesome, awesome. Let us know how it goes. And yes, Distressor rules. Jim, hello, hello, hello. Wait, Braxel, did I actually give you a greeting, or did I just kind of get into the distressing of it all? E flat. So let me take a quick moment here, and I'll get caught up on. Oh, there we go. Albert, hello, good morning. I'm going to get to you in just a moment. One of the things that we're going to cover on the guitar front today, one of my favorite things about this show is that, kind of in a totally random and slightly abstract way, when I give the salutation, it's pulling something down out of the musical ether on a note with a groove that I have no idea what I'm going to play, because a big part of music is discovery. It's kind of like what's there. And I think so many of us suffer from, we pick up the instrument. I've been spending a lot of time, I actually don't have it up, Jeff. I don't have it up at the moment, but I've got a new drum plugin from the good folks at TuneTrack, which is a classic rock plugin. And the amazing thing is like, I hear it play, and instantly I'm an E and A. Like, I'm just like, there it is. However, one of the things about all of this, and one of the things that I'm really endeavoring to do as I play over different things to inspire me, is I find myself playing in different keys. And the neat thing about playing in different keys is, we've talked about the timbre of F. Little difference between E is just a little bit floppier. That bloom on that. If I hadn't played an F, I wouldn't have gotten to that. That should be the 5. Yeah. So the idea. So one of the things that I'm really endeavoring to do as I continue to explore the pentatonic is get really good at knowing where I am in the scale. And the most important thing I can say to you, for you to kind of arbitrarily, as I send you off into the guitar playing ether this week, I encourage you to randomly write a bunch of notes down on a piece of paper, like E flat. But not just kind of jump to pattern number 1, but also kind of, where's an E flat? So I say I targeted that one right there, that one right there. I got another one right here. Another one right here. And by so doing, you begin to untether yourself from what I affectionately call A minor pentatonicitis, which is where, like, hey, by default, my first finger just goes there, and the first note that comes out is that, until we get clever enough to go, hey, instead of going, let me just always start, so it doesn't sound like I'm going. So that flat 7, or a little rate. By starting at that little flat 7 there, as in 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, it doesn't sound like the freshman, like, oh, I'm in G, oh, I'm in C. And because we're used to thinking, where's the bass note of the chord that maybe we're playing over it, C. Interestingly enough, as I go to target that, and I started at that C, I actually came into it from that flat 7. So I don't go kind of the freshman thing. I'm really taking myself to task to go, all right, how do I kind of find... there's a thing we talked about a few weeks ago called four corners. So there's that C from that pentatonic shape. And then this right there as the, if you will, it's the fourth note of that. Third note of that. Second note of that. And the first note of that. So I'm learning to be able to kind of approach that. And kind of surround it like the Indians circling the wagons or something. I don't know. And that way we're not just always approaching the root from kind of the same beaten path. That is, if we go back to our default A, again, just by virtue of the fact you saw me kind of liking to walk in from the flat 7. That's the flat 3. Instead of going to go, all right, let me take, instead of playing that A, what happens if I kind of... or that A. Whereas I take that A, that's playing, if you will, kind of as we looked at that box there on the kind of surround of four corners. That was... sound a little familiar. So the point being is it just allows you to look at the neck differently. And when we look at the neck differently, we start playing different stuff because we hear the notes get revealed. All right. Carlos, I hope you got my message. I did tell you. Yeah, there we go. All right. Awesome. Hey. All right, hold on. Let me get back into the Sal and the Utations. Okay. All right, Jim, I don't think I got you yet. Maybe I gave you some F. Now, kind of along the same lines, one of the great things about the minor pentatonic, if we go to the key of G, as you begin to think about the pentatonic in a linear, which is where I'm spending a lot of time these days, sequentially it's a minor third, a major second, another major second, a minor third, and a major second. So the only place you got those two major seconds next door to each other is the flat 3 and the 4, and the 4 and the 5. So as you begin to chart your path on each string, I'm really kind of beginning to go, okay, how do I just see that sequence wherever I am with the flat 3, or whether I'm at the flat 7, or I'm at the 4, and be able to kind of jump into that. So that's really kind of changing the way I see the neck. So I figured I'd share that with you. All right. Gosh darn it. So I have the Chase Bliss reverb over there waiting to have its faders manipulated. So I have a relatively small experience with their stuff other than it's really well made and they're really nice guys. So that's about the extent of that. However, that reverb over there that I'm not going to get up out of my chair to get to, as tempting as it is one of the things that I'm really excited about messing with. Okay. I do like that episode. So I need to tell the story about this guitar because it's kind of funny. I've talked about this a little bit. I started seeing an ad for this. This is a Guitar Center exclusive. Technically, Musician Friend actually has it as well. So this finish, it's called a Widow. I don't know why it's called a Widow. Hopefully I'm not going to get struck by lightning and my wife sells all my guitars. That is not my idea of a good time. So the thing is that I fell in love with the finish. I used to have a 71 Les Paul Custom that unfortunately I sold because I don't remember why I sold it. I just sold it. And a buddy of mine that I sold it to ended up selling it. And I saw the photos, and and the binding had gone that beautiful old gold color that the binding goes. Since I'd owned it, I was like, oh man, it's just kind of like, okay, fine, it's gone. But the way they've aged the binding on this, the finish, the kind of, the flame on this thing, the guitar itself, it's just beautiful. So I waltzed into Guitar Center, and the action needed a little adjusting because, it's on an airplane or, truck somewhere coming across the country. But I kind of like it. And I was like, oh, there's a vibe there. And honestly, this guitar is already on my top 5 list. There is something... and, it's an interesting thing. I was watching a video, my buddy Caleb, of him sitting in with his band, and there's a guitar player, and the guitar player's got some sort of Les Paul with a Floyd. I'm like, oh, is that going to have an Epiphone or a Gibson headstock? And I kind of thought, Epiphone headstock. And I kind of, so Brett Van V has been on here, so the Epiphone stuff, blah, blah, blah. There's an emotion around it, good, bad, or in between. For dollar, these are the best value guitars, in my opinion, on the market. And this instrument's like, I don't care whether it says headstock. The headstock says Epiphone. There is, and there's a bunch of playing. That this thing is just brought out, and that's what I don't know about you, but when I get a new guitar, and it's a funny thing, quite often I'll let them sit for a minute. It's a strange, slightly quirky thing where I get it home and I'm like, I'm going to park it for a minute. I'm going to pick it up when I'm ready to pick it up. It's a really strange phenomenon. But then when I reach for it, I'm like, nope, now. And this guitar, all the other, there's the kind of the other, one of the other Epiphone Les Pauls that I've got. It's got a rosewood board. And this has got an ebony board, and it sounds... It's got a beautiful little... Because, traditional Les Pauls are not those... What I think about legato... I think of more traditionally, if I think about hammer-ons and pull-offs, I'm not thinking about more the kind of more Eric Johnson, that type of legato is not what I think of, but this guitar, I'm just like, whoa. Oh. There's a lot of me that has yet to be discovered on this instrument. And it's got... All that to say, I'm like, holy cow. So, glad you noticed. Thanks, my dear friend. All right, Terry, what's happening? You got a little... Oh, turn that back. The other thing about this guitar, one of the things that I'm really digging is just kind of wandering from one position of the neck to the other. And it's very friendly. Some guitars kind of fight you. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. That Strat is it just the way the neck is shaped and the way the neck and the frets feel. It's just not. It doesn't have a liquidity. You got to work for your take-home pay a lot more on that guitar. This just kind of makes it really easy to move around. Okay, Terry, great to see you. Good morning. Okay. It will get better every day, and it just does take time. And you know what? Honestly, the heartache, it just kind of becomes an echo of the heartache. You know, my favorite dog, he's been gone probably close to 10 years now. It just never ends. But, all right, Carlos, hello again. Awesome. So this guitar, I have absolutely no idea what the pickups that are in here. But I got to say... It kind of does all the stuff. I don't think I've ever changed from blues into Phrygian Dominant. I was like, let's try it. Oh, Josh, darn it. One of the other things I want to encourage you to do, if you're so inclined, I've been working on these little 4-note groupings. I don't think I've ever done it with Phrygian Dominant yet, but the idea is I'm basically playing D, E, F, and G sharp. That one. I don't think I can make that one. But it's literally kind of. So I guess I had the F there. But it's literally just taking groups of 4 notes. That'll keep you busy. Gosh, I love playing guitar. And thanks for hanging out, by the way. This is way too much fun. So I don't know what those pickups are. Johnny Baines, what's happening, my man? B flat. Morning. Welcome. Gosh darn it. David Ernst, holy cow. Nice to see you back in my feet. It is nice to be in your feet. I guess I'm supposed to go, whoo. Now, let's see. By the way, how's that Boss Amp? Now there I kind of are. Now I know it's G sharp. because I kind of looked. By the way, one of the other things I would encourage you to learn to do is just kind of have your finger on the other side of the nut. And be able to walk your way. There you go. And just kind of be able to feel, oh, that's the G. Or, in this case, a G sharp. I hope people don't get tired of the salutations, because it's one of my favorite things. All right. We should jam if I ever come to Corpus Christi. Would love to. I'm looking forward to getting back to Texas sooner than later. So Texas is such a great state for guitar. I've never been to any state of the union, best state for guitar, hands down. No competition whatsoever. All right, now there we go. Rafa, my dear friend, I thought of you several times this week. Got your guitar. I was thinking about that road-worn Strat that's still here, that kind of potentially has your name on it, and was just missing you. So here you are. That's happened twice this week. I was thinking of my buddy Jason Muscat, who played bass with me and Aunt Manure for many, many years. And all of a sudden, I kind of see a thing on my feed like, it's Jason's birthday, literally the same day I thought of him. So in any case, you've been on my mind, on my heart this week. How the heck are you? Bienvenidos, mi buen amigo. ¿Cómo está? Bien, bien. Holy cow. You know, ooh, haven't tried the middle position today. We're going to go see. Hello. Shoot me an email, my friend. We need to connect. Griffin, what's happening? Okay. I'm going to temporarily, after Griffin, suspend the salutations, but he gets E flat. Okay. Gosh darn it. All right. Good. Catching up. Hello. Okay. Epic coil. It does not have coil tapping. Doesn't have any of that stuff. But it's the funny thing is, I have a tendency not to use that, with the exception of the Fishman pickups that are in the Fishman Fluence pickups that are in. Oh, by the way. Meet Red. So that is the new V, and that is the rhythm guitar. Specifically got that as the rhythm instrument for wrapping up this album stuff that I'm working on. Needed the right guitar that put slightly heavier set of strings on it. The Zach Wild Dunlop strings. I think it's a 10 through 52. I actually, by the way, I would suggest doing this. If you have multiple guitars can I please suggest, rather than putting a piece of tape on headstock, because I've discovered that tape actually can, depending on the surface and depending on the finish, leave a corrosion. Bad. And even painter's tape, I've discovered some, because not all painter's tape is created the same. If you happen to go onto Amazon, you look painter's tape. Sometimes you'll see people's comments like it left some residue, or or it took up the underlying coat of whatever it was sitting on top of. So not all painter's tape is created equal. I use it for lots of stuff. There's always a piece lying around somewhere. However, I have a spreadsheet with all the different guitars by brand. I saw this comedian talking about OCD, and he was saying, he took some test and he said that they had all these qualities of what was involved and all of that. And he said, so he went through and he organized all the things by color coded on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm like, scale of 1 to 10, that's so me. But the point being is that on the spreadsheet, I have each guitar broken down by brand and then model. I did not alphabetize the models, but then in turn, which strings are on there, such that when I go to restring it, as much as I have, by the way, if you don't have one of these, and you have multiple guitars, this is a must-own. So, my handy-dandy little guy. And just allows you to very easily just kind of measure the string, and it's going to tell me this is 44.5, which means it's a 46. Now it's saying 45. No, it's still saying 44.5. Not every string is always going to be 100%, totally 100% consistent, but if you have your standard choice of 42 or 46, that's weighing at 44.5. So basically, it means that you know what strings are on there as you go to replace them. And it's a really, really big deal for consistency. You get used to the way a certain guitar sounds. And if you want to change it, you know what you're changing from. And then you have the world of things you can change to. And if you want to change back, you remember exactly what it was maybe a month ago. It's like, what was on there? Now that these things have worn in, maybe I want to go back to what I was using. What was that? So I have a kind of a chest filled with different strings that I've kind of collected over the years, because that's what I do. But the point being is that by being able to document exactly which strings are on which instrument, and in turn, by having that catalog, I can go back to that and kind of go, oh, from that selection and what I can think about in terms of the range of the instruments and the different strings that are on there, the Zach Wild strings in particular for rhythm guitar, because Zach does a lot of stuff these days, increasingly that's tuned down compared to the Aussie days where he was not as low as he is now. You really need a string that's going to maintain its intonation and its tone. And I love the way his strings sound on pretty much every guitar that I put them on. So these should be the heavy cores, the Dunlop. This will be a 10 through 46, or in this case, a 10 through 44.5. We will have swapped these out, I think. Maybe not. Maybe these are the stock strings. I can tell by looking at this. These are the stock strings. But the point being is that knowing what strings are on there is a really, 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 really big deal. And being able to catalog that stuff when you come back to an instrument, you're able to make those changes. It's a big deal for me. So that is to say, on this guitar, it does not have coil tapping. That guitar does. And it also has kind of a modern and vintage mode for the pickups, which I love. But the interesting thing is when I reach for a traditional, quote unquote, Les Paul, what I'm thinking is I just want to do the Les Paul thing, and it's a funny, quirky thing. Actually, I'm sure somebody out there is like, I totally feel you on it. Other people are like, oh man, it'd be great to have the by the way, push pots, which is actually my far preference for tactical. My buddy Gary Brower works on Joe Satriani's guitars, and he's like, the push pots always break in transit. Somebody at an airline throws the guitar case. I'm sure you've seen those videos. It's the Stratapult, and what ends up happening is the guitar lands like that in the case, and it breaks. And so you get to the gig and you pull the guitar out, and the pot's broken. That's a problem. So the thing is that, which is why, although it's not my preference on the Flying V #1 that is there, which you can't quite see, to turn the Sustainiac on or off, and then the change from the fundamental to the octave, they're pull, push to engage and disengage at Gary's suggestion, although I would much rather do push, push. It's like, you'll thank me later, or actually I won't have to thank him later because they don't break. So it is a thing. So just a word on that. I saw Eric Johnson on Monday. Awesome, awesome. Did you get a chance to say hi? And he is a lovely guy. And, you know, the funny thing is I've been kind of in my... my kind of hammer-on-y kind of... he does a thing, you know, that touch is... One of the things is that there are so many people that imitate Eric Johnson. It's kind of one of the things I've really stayed away from. But I'm kind of allowing myself to just kind of touch on some of that stuff and just kind of go, well, let me cross over the line of kind of going, all right, that is very clearly, but to be inspired and see where that takes me as I kind of go, well, where does that take my hands on the fingerboard that I wouldn't have gone otherwise, and what does it do? And his hammer on... And much of this... Sorry, not to be fun. There's a song called Waterfall that's on Are You Experienced, Jimi Hendrix. And I was hanging out with Mr. Satriani a while ago. And and we were talking about guitar, and I happen to have a bunch of my old albums there. But that kind of minor pentatonic, where it's kind of mainly single string. And pretty much no right hand there. And I said, was, the inspiration for some of that stuff that you do, Waterfall? He said, absolutely. So if you haven't, or you're not familiar with that song or haven't heard it for a while, go back and give it a listen. But Jimmy just does some really beautiful stuff in there. In many ways, it was that moment of inspiration. There goes my lone guitar pick. Actually, I have a giant bag of them that has disappeared into the... Here, you know what? I will temporarily go pickless. Going camo. All right, gosh darn it. All right. Wait. Okay, hang on a second. I just got the Epiphone IGC 59 Les Paul standard reissue with the custom Bucker pickups. Great guitar. Congratulations, dude. Way to go. All right, what is IG? Oh, I guess I'm going to find out. And IGC Les Paul custom. Tell me what an IGC is. Well, I guess that's just the mod. Oh, inspired by Gibson. Right. That's an acronym I should have known. Way to go, dude. Way to go. Dude, I'm so happy with these Epiphones. I can't really put it into words. And the pickups are nuts. The neck pickup. All right, I need a pick. Hang on just a second. Pick break. You, come here. All right. But the neck pickup in particular, and I purposely don't play on it. Come on, get out from underneath my wheel there. That much, because when I go to it, I want to kind of use it as punctuation. have that volume up. It's got a really nice floaty kind of, and a nice way of bubbliness to it. And I'm not always the biggest fan of the middle position, but this guitar, I'm going to back off on the bridge volume. Really nice. Holy cow. All right, I got to get to work here. Terry, thank you. Michael, play the Hendrix chord. Absolutely. Not like that. I heard that a minute ago, but I was like, can I get away with this? I was like, no. And actually, so at this point, I've played the daylights out of these strings. I basically had a, as you get older, sometimes you just feel inclined to take a late afternoon nap. I know you've never done that, but the deal is, I woke up at about 7 o'clock, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go down, and I was like, I'm going to grab this. I played until 2 in the morning. I was like, oh, what? That's like 7 hours, right? I was just like, yes. Just dug in. So I played this guitar pretty much nonstop for like 3 days. Just... All right, let me focus here, the Focus Fox. All right, I want some onion rings. Nice and abstract. Eric, every week I say I'm going to send you your stuff. I'm looking for that second one of those in the instructions. I have not forgotten about you. The one is literally sitting by my front door. Every time I leave and come home, I think of you. So just know that. Okay, they say Epiphone Pro Bucker custom pickups. Thank you, Albert. Dude, these pickups are... Again, bring the volume down. I'm also going to say something here. One of the things that I'm playing probably somewhere between 8 and 12 hours a day. Not everybody has the time to do that, but I will say that if by chance you do, or on days that you do, I want to point out something that is not, maybe it's obvious to you, but was not obvious to me. There's, and it ties into a question that Chris had, so I'm going to actually tether that into that. I'm actually going to get to work here, because I'm having way too much fun. Not that the rest of this isn't fun, but I'm kind of going a little play happy today. So my dear friend, Chris, sent this through, and he always sends a couple of questions. I don't always answer them, but there was one here. What should someone work on first after a hiatus? Now, he's been on a vacation, so that's kind of the same thing. You know, and what would someone work on when they can't actually practice with a guitar in hand? So there's a lot of meat on the bone there. So first of all, there are times, and I've discovered there's a huge difference between practicing and playing. Now, maybe you're like, well, duh. What, are you new? And it's like, well, no. You know, the thing is that the practice really informs the playing. And the playing in turn informs the practice. That is to say, when you go to play something in a soloing or rhythm mode, but you know, in a soloing mode, you're like, oh, I can't quite make that happen. It informs you about the sorts of things that you want to be doing in your practice time. I find that in periods of time when I'm extra steeped in the practice stuff and less on the playing side, I need to just spend some time playing along with some of my favorite jam tracks. So one of the things that's actively happening in the background is I've started to construct jam tracks that are going to appear on a weekly basis. Haven't totally worked out all the nuance of this, but basically, there is. Well, I can let you in on the plot. So I studied with this guy Cam, who runs Gibbs Sunday, and he and I have been kind of gently working towards my properly relaunching. I think we all know Mrs. Doppler there. Hi, honey. But this is my new fancy pants iPad, which costs obscenely way too much money. But the thing is that I'm about to start kind of doing Instagram content. And a huge part of that is going to be the backing tracks that I'm playing along to. And the tentative idea, I'm saying tentative, is that kind of there's going to be like 5 days worth of stuff where I'll kind of be playing potentially over the same track and people can email and get the track. And there'll also be guitar profiles. So the idea is that there'll be some particular lick, you know. Something like that. No, what, did I go back? Right. Something like that, but a little bit more in tune, where there's some, you know, very specific idea that's working, you know, that in the midst of song, that G string's going to break soon. That you know, I might have kind of that I might have played in the midst of song, or I purposely dropped that little sucker in there. And the idea, and by the way, Albert, and any of you that are hybrid pickers, I've changed my mind a little bit over this past week. So this past week, I kind of spent a bunch of time working. I actually sat down and that exercise we went over last time, which I'm going to recap very briefly right now, which is if you were to take, well, I'm going to take E minor pentatonic for right now. There's our 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. I talked about the idea of extending that to the 1 and the flat 3 up the octave. And I was saying that I had a tendency to use the second finger on both the third string and on the second string. But over the course of this week, I changed my mind. And I'm going to start using my second finger on the neighbor string of whatever string I'm picking with the pick. So that is, say, as if you want an exercise for this. Actually, let me start on, that's going to be the downbeat. 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, and 3, and 4. I'm supposed to be counting measures 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 2, and 3, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and... Oh, sorry, I didn't use the third finger. 3, 4. Switching fingers. Switching directions. So last week I talked about using the second finger and reserving the third finger for when I move up to the high E string there. And using the second finger for both the third string or the upper neighbor string. So I move that down. But I've changed my mind. And I'm going to use the third finger when I'm playing 2 strings up. And if I need to move up another string above there. All right, still a little bit out. I think the intonation and I think the G string's getting ready to go. But the point being is that it's a really good exercise. And you just do, the goal is to just kind of get seated on each string as you're working on that. And again, I'm kind of pedaling to the root of pattern number 1 of the minor pentatonic, the, if you will, the upper note, on the 4th string, and it just. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And that'll just get that really kind of up and running. And that was inspired by something that I mentioned last week that Jared James Nichols mentioned in a video where he would practice the things that he plays with his fingers, doing kind of little drum paradiddle exercises. And I was like, all right, it's time for me to start getting serious about that. And in so doing, I kind of went, okay. And I'm really kind of. And there are times that I will have a tendency to just start. In this case, I'm kind of, if you will, 2 strings up. And I'll just naturally just kind of use my pick and the middle finger. So that means that I don't always, assign the pick to the 4th string, if you will, the 2nd finger to the 3rd string, and the 3rd finger to the 2nd string. There'll be times I just kind of, by instinct, just kind of go whatever strings I'm starting off. I will use the pick and the 2nd finger. But increasingly, this nail is just a little tiny bit long. But that would be, again, a great way to work. So again, 4s. And you actually might be able to go. And flip it around. Switch strings. Okay. Any case, have fun with that. Jason, my dear friend, how are you? Dude, great to see you. All right, equipped with a Pro Bucker custom humbuckers, model after Gibson custom acclaimed pickups. Thank you, Melissa Doppler. All right, Manuel, como está mi buen amigo? So much for being done with salutations. Great to see you, my friend. All right, let me get to work here. All right. All right. Let me finish answering this last little bit of question. Because I kind of non sequitur into whatever I just non sequitur into. So say you've been away from the instrument. One of the important things to do is have a set group of exercises. I am in minor pentatonic heaven right now. So for me, where I would start personally, I'd be like, okay, 5 patterns of minor pentatonic, nice, slow, even tempo. That would be the practice side, just to kind of have just like a little bit of structure, a great place to start, up and down the neck, and work that with the metronome starting at 80 BPM. It's 8 notes, which is nice and slow. Nothing hairy. Really trying downstroke, 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 lining up with that click, of which I'm rushing ever so slightly. Because we're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So if you start on the down beat with a downstroke, every one of those metronome clicks will be accompanied by a downstroke. Especially if you don't speed up while trying to talk and play at the same time. But the deal is, those patterns as I'm talking and I'm listening to the metronome, I'm not even thinking about the shapes anymore because they're so ingrained. So what's neat is to have that type of practice under your belt that you walk back into. There will be that period it will feel kind of foreign. It happens. So before you do that, but that's really important, but before you do that, find some sort of little jam track. And spend some time just kind of getting your sea legs back. And what's neat about it is that what happens for me, before I go back and start digging, being, all right, let's kind of resuscitate the hands, just allows me to kind of attempt to grab onto a vibe. Because I'm always looking for, you know... So I said, I can pick it up and something happens, right? And, you know, I'll be perfectly honest. When I've been away from the instrument, just like you, sometimes the something that happens is not a particularly rewarding experience, and that's okay. You know, it's kind of like just getting your sea legs back. It's just a thing. It's part of the process. All right. Let me jump back into the questions here, or comments. Mrs. Doppler does know her eppies. What's going on, Mark? About to head off to load in for a show tonight. Have a great... A great show, my friend. All right. I am here in North Fort Worth. There we go. Texas. Just my friend, the internet, and quickly so I always use 1052 strings. Love them. You know. Oh, Sonny is here. There we go. Come on. All right. So I find a 52 is. So the thing is, a little earlier this morning. On the bottom two strings, and I find that a 52 is just a little, unless I'm playing rhythm, which is what's on that guy, it's a little too much for me, and to just kind of it's just, there's a little bit too much string for just kind of, for me, for kind of that type of playing. It's just a little bit more, there's a certain amount when I'm doing lead stuff, at least for me, that I'm kind of like more often than not, especially when I'm not playing something faster. The string is in some motion of being bent a little or a lot. Like a disproportionate number of those notes are being kind of gently. But when it's sped up, it doesn't sound as weird as but there is still a lot of bending that's going on there. So I find that when I get too thick a string on the bottom there, unless it's for rhythm purposes, I can't quite manipulate it like I want to. But that's just me. All right. But, first of all, regardless, it's a great string choice. Sonny, my man, so I need you to answer some questions for me. Couple of things. We talked about this. But since I last saw you, I pulled out a couple of different pedals. So what's going to happen is every week, one of the things we're going to do, we're going to focus, at least for a while, on some particular piece of gear and or type of gear. So you were interested in modulation. My guess is you meant specifically chorus. That can mean a number of different things. So I'm kind of curious, are you wanting Andy Summers' lush chorus delay into the front end of the amp? Are you wanting a nice kind of solo, maybe 80s sort of a tone that's got chorus and delay in the effects loop of the amp? Because strategically, we're talking about two different ways to manipulate where the unit is placed, and also a little bit about the style of the form factor. Generally speaking, when I place modulation delays and whatnot in the loop, they have a tendency, not always, they have a tendency more often than not to start to be multi-effects units, simply because the fidelity of the circuitry is really cool. But there are certain things that I want to do sometimes, especially if the amp is clean, before the front of the amp. This is the Disaster the Disaster Transport. The Disaster Transport with modulation. So the thing about this is, I was thinking about you, Sonny. First of all, what's neat about it was perfect pedal, which we're going to do next week when we, hopefully, if you're around, when we're talking about this stuff. Is that we are going to demonstrate what modulation sounds like on a long delay, and as it just sits against the notes once the delay lands. We talked about this last week. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to make it as short a delay, and unfortunately, this pedal, to get the delay as short as possible, is still a little tiny bit longer than I would want for a chorus. So you hear a little bit of the slap backness of it versus really, really, really short delay that's got modulations. You really generally can't hear the delay factor in there. You just hear the one, generally in stereo chorus, one part is just direct and the other's going, but will allow us to demonstrate how to kind of do both of those things, the latter of which doesn't work so well on this pedal. The Grand Orbiter here is one of the pedals that I pulled out that, and this is my other favorite thing, painter's tape. So this is kind of a swirly, kind of phasey, kind of univibey type of dude. Also a type of modulation, where modulation is something is modulating. Hello, hello. Now this is their chorus pedal, and I was really, really impressed with this. So, and I was, again, just using it in the front end of the amp. But as I was kind of pulling stuff out specifically for you, Sonny, then I thought, I was thinking about doing it today, but I didn't know for sure you would be here. So one, are you going to be here next Saturday? And two, tell me specifically about how you're wanting to use chorus. Okay. So, Sonny, do me a favor. Drop an answer into all of that in the chat. Oh, my word. Drop all of that into the chat real quick, and I will catch up on that. What's going on? Kevin, my friend. Interesting byproduct of this show is I've gotten very comfortable in playing in B flat, and it's kind of one of those things. It's as a kind of strange aside. If we start doing something that we don't normally do, like how many of us play in B flat? You know, literally. You know, like I was mentioning a little earlier, I've got these great classic rock drums from the good folks at Tune Tracks. I do not instinctively go, all right, I don't, but if I picked up the guitar without a track going, there might be some time. Where all of a sudden the coolness of B flat, the other thing. In fact, you can play it at that first fret as much as, you know, most of us for, you know, years we go, the last thing I want to do is play the pentatonic. I'm going to be down there, we might want to. So that was basically, except for that little note there. There, I did it again. That's A minor pentatonic, right? But B flat. There's some cool stuff that can happen. Point being is that if we don't mess around in keys that we don't mess around with, we don't mess around with them. Okay. All right. Coated strings. And Sonny, hopefully you have replied with all my chords. So there we go. Okay, good. I see you there. Coated strings. This is a great question. Without mentioning names, my roommate at GIT had really acidic fingers. So basically, once he played my guitar. And that was it. Never let him play my guitar again. Because basically he corroded the strings basically just by touching it. No fault of his, it's just his genetics, but I was like, okay, please don't. And so some folks, the sweat in their hands is just acidic, so it corrodes strings. For people that have either mildly or extremely acidic fingers or finger oil, coated strings are awesome. I don't like the feeling of the coating on the string. I can feel it, at least in most of the coated strings that I've played, which is not a huge number, but I played enough to kind of go, okay, I want to check it out. And I will say where it's particularly valuable is if you have enough instruments, especially acoustic guitars, that if you've ever gone back to an instrument. By the way, I'm going to encourage you to do something that I'm going to go off frame for a second because I'm going to do that. I'm doing something that I've never done before. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to pretty much anytime these come in something that they come in, I throw them away. I'm keeping these guys, especially these big, healthy guys, because I'm going to start putting these in every single one of my guitar cases where guitars that live in there, and you should do that anyway. but not all of them actually come with the silica gel or whatever the hell this stuff is. But basically, it kind of helps maintain a better moisture. Speaking of which, my hands are just a little tiny bit dry. So the point being is that is something that I'm going to add, and there are actual better, actual outright humidifiers. But the point being is that coated strings are really good if you've got an acoustic guitar that doesn't get played an awful lot. If you've ever pulled an acoustic out of the case and gone, the heck happened to my strings? Now, I am going to strongly suggest, especially if you own multiple instruments, first of all, every time you put your instrument away, give the strings all the way up and down the string, not just on the top, but including getting kind of around the string, including the bottom, giving it a good wipe. And maybe if you can, just get a little bit of the fingerboard as you're kind of getting the string, gently push into the fingerboard so you can wipe that off. Also, that includes any of the hardware, like this stuff here, including the pickups. And that way, basically, these pickups by now, invariably, it's going to be slightly gross, but I'm just going to say it. It's highly probable, given summertime, I've sneezed on this guitar at this point. If you ever wonder what the dots on your guitar are, it's snot. Disgusting. But, achoo, you're like here, achoo, well, guess what? That's what it is. It's flipping gross. But, sorry, it is what it is. So that's why, when you got to put your instrument away, give it a good wiping, especially if you have slightly or more acidic fingertips. And that includes the tuning gear. So I've started to become much better about that because my hands are relatively dry, hence why I just put on a little hand lotion there. That's not as much of a problem. However, there are still times when I pull an instrument out of the case, I'm like, oh, I could have done a better job before. The other thing is in terms of maintaining the hardware such that it doesn't, bubble and kind of, age prematurely. That's a really important thing to do, in my humble opinion. So it will make it better. So, and in terms of the coated strings, I think I have some Martin coated strings that are really, really, really good. And I think I put them on one or two of my guitars. And those instruments, I don't mind it as much, but on a traditional electric, it is a little bit of a problem for me. Okay. Let me take a listen to this. Gotta love those Dunlops. I love the Dunlop strings. They have been great, and the Zakk Wylde strings are just nuts. I saw Eric Johnson do his acoustic show where he played piano and acoustic guitar with no band. It was amazing. He is a fabulous musician. I saw him, growing up in the Bay Area. One of the great things about this place, we were close enough to Los Angeles. Pretty much anything cool that came through Los Angeles had a tendency to come through the Bay Area. And so I saw Eric, the tour before Avia Musicom, in a small venue called the Great American Music Hall, and it was just phenomenal. He played some acoustic, as I recall, but he was just brilliant. It's always nice to see somebody before they're quote-unquote stupid famous, because you get a chance to kind of see them. It hasn't become... Eric's not classically a show guy, but at the point that you're playing in a larger venue, there's a show dimension that's inescapable because it becomes a show as opposed to an artist playing. Even though it's a show, there's a difference between a venue and a nightclub, if you will, kind of a larger venue, 800 to 2,500 seats. That's a different type of venue. It's a lot less intimate than a club, and something about a club experience just has the sense of connection with the artist that you don't have in a larger venue. So there you have that. So and he played some acoustic stuff and some bluegrass, and what was neat about it was because it was a little bit more of a casual thing. He just had the freedom to just go between those different things, but it was just, his playing was just outstanding. Brett, what's going on, my man? It has a nice honk to it. I love that. I've honked it out of tune. Like I said, I think the G string's getting ready to go here. I've played the daylights out of these strings here, so they're kind of going, what are you doing? And the interesting thing about this guitar that I did notice, besides the fact that you're watching me tune here, which is more of a string thing than anything else, the tuners, quite often tuners on Les Pauls, the G has a tendency to go flat. It's not the case on this guitar. Honk, I love that. Thank you, my friend. Okay, Kevin B813, good day from Austin, Texas. Hello, Austin, Texas. I love Texas and guitar. Hello. If we haven't met before or I don't remember, welcome or welcome back. Pleasure. What a great state, great city, just all the way around. All right, Tundra Drifter, what's happening? Thank you very much. That's me imitating you. Thanks, my man. Welcome. Ronnie North, hello. You get metal. How you doing, my great friend? Friend of many NAMM shows. Friend of many Los Angeles outing gigs. And overall guitar buddy. Ronnie North, great to see you. Great player. Hello. Even if you won't tell me what your real last name is. I think it's Norteño. But it could be North. Pero. Creo, no es North. Norteño. In case, great to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Thank you. All right, Gary Whiteside. Gosh darn it. Is it weird that I'm serenading people on the show? Good weird. Great to see you, Gary. Thanks for stopping in and hanging out. All right, Dr. Phil, I'm about saluted out, so let me just attempt to stay focused here for a minute, so I can get caught up on the comments. So please do not be insulted by my lack of salutation, because I'm feeling a little overly salutatious. All right, first of all, great to see you. Sunny in DFW, 92 degrees, 100 degrees. Come on. Like Professor Doppler'S high champs today. Thanks so much, my dear friend. A quick phrase. Love you, bro. All right. Gosh darn it. All right. David, quick phrase. How you doing, my man? Great to see you. All right. Kevin, there we go. I have an Epiphone 59 Les Paul. I just changed the pickups to Seymour Duncan JB and a Jazz. What a great combination, right? The JB it's got all that meaty mid-range, you know. I don't know why I'm playing a guitar that doesn't have a JB in it. But what a great pickup. My main guitar for many, many, many years was kind of a super strat that had a JB that had been rewound by a guy named Leo Knapp that used to work at a place called Leo's Music. Not the same Leo as in Leo Knapp, but a great sounding pickup. I think it was just a little tiny bit hotter, but way to go. Congratulations. What color did you get? That's what I want to know. What finish? Okay, Albert, great. Now you maybe use that third finger, which is even more challenging. So, here's the interesting thing. Again, a minute ago, I said that this nail here, it's gotten just a little tiny bit long on this finger. And I was discovering... And it makes it getting in underneath that string. I'm like, oh. And whatever, it's a strange thing. As I've gotten older, my nails grow crazy fast. I take a kind of daily regimen of vitamins. I don't take any crazy kind of testosterone or human growth hormone. I don't do that, but my nails grow at an alarmingly fast rate, which is kind of interesting. But the point being that so much of what I do these days, and there will be times that I will go back and use that second finger. But I know that ultimately, especially if you want to go where you do some sort of talkly. So just if you feel bored, basically I'm taking E minor pentatonic and I'm going, so I'm basically going between the E, G, E, B. That's basically 4, 3, 4, 2 in terms of strings. And then E, A, E, D, and again 4, 3, 4, 2. And in that sort of an instance, that's really where, because I actually don't think I could do that. Or more importantly, I'll be practicing that this week. So even if that is to say, I purposely made it so that these notes are played without other notes surrounding to kind of walk up. Because there, you can walk up a little bit more easily. But psychologically, if you're going... That's really one of those places where you wouldn't go... I'm going basically, that's the pick, second, pick, second, you go. So it makes sense. And there's a bunch of... I can't do it. And there's a bunch of licks that I have yet to play, but I know they're in there. I'm basically going. My brain doesn't want to do that. But the point being is I know that those sorts of sequences where I can freely go between the pedal tone and also then begin to kind of do other it was doing something. All right. Not sounding like much right now. that's basically kind of now. Once I get up that up to speed, basically it's basically kind of like a minor 7, 1 5 flat 7 flat 3 as in E B D G. It's a great exercise. Basically, it's a little mini sweep. That's something that's coming, but I don't have it together yet. All right. Awesome. Great. Albert, always a pleasure. Your eagerness to challenge those fingers is great. So it kind of keeps me on my toes as well. So thank you for that. Yes, sea legs, Lieutenant Dan. God, no legs. How you doing, Wes? Great to see you, man. Good morning. All right. Bijam, hello. Come on. Great to see you, my friend. Last time I saw you was at a Joe Satriani camp, what, like 10 years ago? How the heck are you, my friend? So great to see you. Hello. All right, I'm over salutating, so I'm going to contain myself. Okay. Bring it on, buddy. So thank you for that, Dr. Phil. So one of the other, so first of all, anybody here, like I'm getting to Sonny's comment here. If you have any, like, hey, particular type of gear is better than a particular specific piece, but ask away. Like, Sonya was like, hey, tell me about any Chase Bliss, my thoughts. So like that reverb pedal that's here, chances are somebody at some point is going to say, let's talk about reverb, because one of the things I've got, ironically, this little Wampler reverb. I'll turn that off. Sam's got a great sound to it, but the reverb also allows me to bring in a little bit of a vintage vibe. That just kind of adds a little bit more to what I'm going for. So reverb is one of my favorite effects, and honestly, I'm again, based on something Jared James Nichols said. He made a comment about, players using too much delay. There's delay that's appropriate for some of the stuff that's on the album that I'm working on. Going to be one album, both vocal and instrumental. They were originally two, they become one. But the idea is that there are specific songs that really, there's like, this needs delay. But Jared commented that a number of players play live and they use delay because it almost, to a certain point, become a little bit of a crutch. There's enough of a wash, like, you don't hear what's really happening in the background. And conversely, players get overly excited about how much delay they use, and by the time it gets front of house in a room that's got reverb in it, then all of a sudden you got a wash and you really lose the clarity of what the player's doing. That really struck me, because I was like, when I'm using delay, I use what I consider to be a reasonable amount, but I'm kind of like, because I'm up on a stage playing it when I'm using it in a live situation, I can't really be out in the room knowing, have I gone overly soupy in a room that maybe has a lot of wash. I'm always conscious in a room that's got a lot of splash to it that I do try and use effects a little bit more sparingly when I can easily get in and make those changes. However, it's you're not out in the room playing when you're playing, and so you don't really know. And sound check, for those of us that play live, the bodies aren't in the room yet. So basically, imagine if you've ever played in a room that's got a concrete floor like a garage, and all of a sudden you throw a carpet down on the floor. That's kind of like what happens when you bring bunch of bodies into a nightclub. They're like a human carpet. They just kind of absorb these standing waves, especially because the humans are standing. So the waves that would go back and forth in the room, it's not only the stuff that's kind of coming off the stage that they absorb, but it's just all the reflections in the room, both in terms of what is actually hitting a hard floor, because nightclubs have generally a hard surface on the floor, even if it's covered with sawdust. If you ever played with, it's kind of like a scene out of the Blues Brothers. But the point being is that you don't necessarily know, so it's made me hyper conscious. But I will admit, over the past couple of weeks, as I've kind of really been kind of going for my vibe, I've inched up the reverb from here. And there is a noticeable amount, but from there to there, I'm wanting, actually this is probably a little bit hotter than that. I'm wanting... I'm really wanting a noticeable amount of reverb, so I'm just easing it up, adding more in there. So it's an interesting conversation. So all that to say, getting to AB boxes, I have a multitude of thoughts about them. Okay, so we're going to run through. First of all, Sonny, are you going to be here next Saturday? Let me know. Let me know. Lewis, I am playing through the 90s dual rectifier standard. My favorite amp in the world. I absolutely love this amp. Okay, do me here, Sonny. Let me know if you're going to be here next Saturday. The headphones, checking my mix. Braxley, you were a bad, it takes a certain level for me to be able to go, you're a bad influence. Okay, Sonia, all right, good. Okay. So let me put on my, first of all, Sonny, are you still here or did you check out? Because I saw your comments there. So let's plan the next Saturday, and Sonny would have heard me say that. We're going to, Morley, there we go. Hey, Dan, what's going on? Okay, great. Yes, so next Saturday, we're doing a modulation thing. So let me just briefly go to your comments here real quick. So as much as I love my boogie metal crunch, I love the 70s wah funk, modulation in the effects loop, clean funk. So you want just a little bit of modulation on the funky side of things. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to kind of run through a number of different flavors of modulation, but I really wanted to very specifically know what it was that you were thinking. So here's the thing, is if you're using the clean tone, the nuanced version of this, and we will demonstrate this, is that part of what I did as I was pulling these pedals, I was running a bunch of stuff into the front end of this amp, actually set on a clean tone. Now if I bring down the amount of gain, this amp, and I'll probably need to bring the volume up, actually I need to bring the volume down. Got a really great. It's a beautiful clean voice. So in this amp, with treating it like it's a traditional, because it really is, for all intents and purposes, that is kind of the sound of a Fender clean circuit. that's one of the instances where, when using that amp like that, I will purposely put the pedals in front of it, because that's what I would do if I were playing with a traditional clean Fender amp. And generally, I want to run that stuff into the preamp and let the preamp kind of do its little harmonic magic to the sound of that chorus. And if I were putting together a funk rig, for functionality, I would be inclined to use some sort of switcher, like, I'm not going to be able to get it all the way out. You can see hiding back, there's a little screen right there. That's this little, that's the PBC6X. And it's got 6 loops, and if you do a little magic, you can get some extra loops out of it by splitting stereo loops. But the point in the X means you can reorder that on a preset by preset basis. So if you want to run one pedal into another and then switch the order of that, you can do that internally in that device because of the way it's set up to do that. But the deal is that I bought a kind of a smallish pedal train board and case, because I have a separate bass pedal board. And I wanted one basically about the same size that I'm going to set up for kind of my rig. And there's going to be, I've started, as part of what this whole process was about, I'm like, well, what pedals do I want on there? And in turn, as I was thinking about you, Sonny, and this amp and this tone, I'm like, most of what I would do is actually running into the front end, including running into delays, because there's something magic about hitting the front end of the amp. But when you start using the distortion in the front end of the amplifier, in the preamp section, right, that's generally where, when you're using time-based effects especially, you want to run them in the loop. And what you basically want to do is you want to delay your distortion as opposed to distort your delay. It's not really, with a small amount of breakup on the amp, it can be really cool, but above that, it's not. So the idea of knowing your strategy there kind of allows me to do that. It means, first of all, putting together a little funk thing, I will endeavor to get a compressor in the mix, because if I'm going to play funk, I'm going to be utilizing a compressor. And then getting a little chorus going. I also had there was an Ottawa that, actually, the funny thing is Rocktron made a series of little stomp boxes that were not particularly popular, but as I've been kind of culling pedals to potentially sell a few pedals, I pulled a couple of them out, and every one of them into the front of the amp, I'm like, oh, that's a usable tone. I'm going to keep that. So knowing that, we're going to do that. The other thing is I will have things set up in such a way that we'll also be able to demonstrate in the loop. All right. Getting to this ABY business, there is a lot of nuance that many people don't know. And honestly, first of all, thank you for all of these suggestions, because really it's kind of kicking me in the butt to make some really easy reverb or YouTube content that I kind of need to do around these pedals, like, choruses, because there's honestly, it's kind of information everybody kind of needs to and wants to know, but there's not actually a lot of it. Most of the, using effects stuff is really incredibly basic or kind of way over the top. It's supposed to, like, hey, here's chorus and where you want to put it into the front end of the amp. Here's where you want to use it, potentially using your stereo split. Here's where you want to use it in the loop, and kind of some demonstrations of that without it getting all kind of bat poop crazy. AB boxes need to have two essential things. Got to have a ground lift on one of the two, so you can isolate the ground. Mandatory, or else you're going to get ground loops. That's a must. The second thing on the list is to have a phase inversion thing. This particular AB box right here, from my good friends at Mesa Boogie, has that, and it's also MIDI controllable, such that, say I want to use two-turn amps, when you add a gain stage in an amplifier, the phase flips. So that is to say, if I'm kind of using a traditional Mesa Boogie amp, and then I go from, that is, say, like a Mark Series amp, and I go from my rhythm to my lead, in the older Mark series, the phase would flip, which means if you're using that amp with another amp, you're going to be out of phase if the other amp doesn't switch phases. So let's say, for example, you've got a Marshall and you're using a Boogie. And when you switch between the clean channel of the Boogie to the dirty channel or the dirty mode of the Boogie, you also have the Marshall play at the same time. So that's kind of an A-B, one or the other, or in that particular case, the Y, you're getting both playing. So when, you could just have like, all right, I want to play the clean channel on the Boogie. Now I want to switch to the dirty channel, and I want to have the Marshall play at the same time. You want to make sure that you can have those phase coherent. And basically what it is there's no standard and way of other than the fact that basically means that a wave goes up and it goes down. It's a wave. So when the two waves are in phase, they'll both go up and down at the same time and you hit a note. When they're out of phase, they will go up and down at the same time, but in opposite directions. And although the two amps are not identical, the similarity in areas sonically, those will cancel themselves out, and the sound will get thin. And it's not a desired effect in most instances unless you hard pan it. But, and we're going to have a slight aside here on a bit of conversation. One of the unique things, because recently I asked myself the questions like, does stereo coherency matter? That is to say, if you've got something hard left and hard right, and you purposely flip them out of phase, it makes it have this impression of being extra wide. But if you sum it to mono, as the description is, you bring them into center there, they will cancel each other out. It's bad. Sum to mono. But I was like, well, who listens to stuff in mono? Well, it turns out that many of these USB sound bars that have flooded the planet, they sum things down to mono. That's millions of people. It's actually worse than it ever was. So I was like, okay, phase matters. So the ability to lift the ground or isolate the ground on one of them, on the input, not on the amplifier, and then in turn be able to flip the phase on at least one of them is great. Now the other thing is there are a couple of boxes that are just mixer boxes where it's not just A, B, Y. They're literally split boxes. And my favorite Doug hack ever is the ability to run into two amps. Basically, there's a clean and a dirty mode for the orange channel and a dirty mode for the red channel. So it's a 2-channel amp, 3 modes available. With a little bit of switching magic, I kind of figured out a way of how I can get all 4 at the same time using 2 amps, which is a huge amount of flexibility. Basically what happens is I use an AB box to choose which amp I'm going to go into. I use a little bit of MIDI magic to switch channels on the different amps at random, based on a preset or literally, on the fly at random. But what I do is I come out of the loops and I put them into an AB box, or a called the P-Split. It just splits a mono signal out into dual mono from Layla. It's a great box, Sonia. And I also have a stereo P-Split. But basically what I do, and I did a little research to make sure it was designed to function that way. I was like, well, what if I flip that box in reverse? So instead of using it to take an input and split it to 2 outputs, what if I took 2 outputs and sum them to a single input, which is what I did. So the thing is that at any one time, I'm only going into 1 amp and switching between the 2 amps at will and choosing which channel I want to be in the respective amp. The 2 outputs sum into this little summing box that goes into whatever multi-effects unit that I'm using. That splits the signal in stereo and it comes back into those 2 amps. So I can choose which amp I want to run out into, but because that signal is running into one single summing thing, it doesn't care which one of those amps is actually driving the train that's coming back into one point, that's going into stereo effects, and is coming out of both amps. So basically, at one point, this amp is driving the train, and it's coming out of both. At one point, this amp is driving the train, it's coming out of both. But it allows you to get that stereo depth of field and get all the different channels, which you couldn't do on just one amp. So I'm able to get, instead of just 2 channels, I'm able to get 4 channels, and I can get clean. I can get the vintage gain on the orange channel, and then it still leaves me 2 other options for the red channels. It's a huge amount of flexibility, and those boxes. There you go. Oh, thank you. Silica removes moisture. Winner of the Dumbass Award. If you pair it with a humidifier, it will just get saturated, and the humidifier is useless. Thank you for setting me straight. Ignore all of that. So, Sonia, then since you are exceedingly knowledgeable in that, okay, so let me actually rephrase. In areas that are really, really, really dry, like Las Vegas, one of the challenges is keeping your instruments moist. I should say from drying out excessively. So if you're in Arizona and it's super, 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 super dry, it's one thing. If you're in New York City where it's super, super humid. Sonia, do you have any suggestions around kind of which you would use and where? So Sonia just informed me. What a jackass. Sorry, I'm embarrassed for myself, being embarrassed for myself. Silica removes moisture, which is why they put it in the guitar case, so it doesn't, you don't open your guitar case. I guess the strings are, they got stuff on them, the gunk. They don't rust. It's called rust. Just thinking this through in real time. So I am going to continue to use these because here there's a little tiny bit of humidity in the air. And what I don't want to, I have more of a problem with every so often opening up a case, and I've noticed the strings have added a little bit of corrosion. So that comes because there's a little bit of moisture. Thank you for that. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you for setting me and everybody else straight here. Oh, hey, what's going on tonight? You say knee. Nicht. What am I going to... All right. Right, it's a beautiful... Not necessarily. I think there's an Eddie Money thing in there, right? 2 Tickets from Paradise, right? All right, in any case, thank you for that. And yes, there's a little bit of boogie going on here. That was not the traditional sound. All right, we got that. Okay, good. We got that. Good. I'm back. Welcome back. Okay, the rider and the horse. I love that. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I don't think we've met. Nice to meet you. I'm going to play. Hold on. Generally, if I'm playing funk. If I'm playing funk on a Les Paul. Middle position is generally where I'm going to be. I would probably also roll the bridge pickup off. and I generally wouldn't use anywhere near that much reverb, but I might use just a little spot. Oh, this pedal's got a little. Don't do that. There's. Just a little hot on the mic there. But that little bit of reverb. But too much reverb, it gets in the way of the subdivisions. Versus completely dry. And that's where you want to hear all the little scratchy stuff. That in here gets lost in the din of reverb. All right. So ABY splitter. Yes. So next week, chorus. The week after, we're gonna bring on a number of the ABY splitter boxes that are here and demonstrate them in real time, which is going to be really flipping cool. So thank you for that. It's been kind of, to tell you the truth, I've been thinking about the modulation thing. I was kind of like, gosh, it would be really cool to do one on splitters. So I'm so glad, Dr. Phil, you brought that in. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I ended up putting the Black 50th Anniversary JB and Jazz in there. JB is a little hotter than the normal version. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Very, very, very cool. Nice. Esteban, ¿cómo está, muy buen amigo? ¿Qué pasó? All right, I got those audio ease. Oh, right. So those, right. Audis, that's how it's pronounced, sorry. Yeah, those are supposed to be really, really, really killer. I think Christian Cola was raving about those. Very, very cool. All right, ABY. And yes, the Layla stuff is great. I have a dual. I have the one at 3, the one at 2, and I think the original and the second generation of sound. Kind of crazy. Dan, how you doing, first of all? Great to see you. I don't know, and I need to double check if the Morley has a ground lift. And so I'll do a little bit of research and I'll make some recommendations on kind of different ones and whatnot. So that's great. All right, awesome. Sonny, thank you so much. For those of us who play at home, do you think the Oxbox does a good job of emulating such different settings, venues, carpets, etc.? It's a great question. By the way, I have a lesson that starts in 5 minutes, so I'm going to go as that. Yes, Dan, that is a lot of tread plate. Okay. So first of all, invariably, and I at some point I go to Australia for a little bit, and I'm going to take a couple weeks off the live stream because it's just with the time and whatnot, it's a little hairy. But I will do an episode where I use the different reactive load boxes and whatnot. First of all, I'm going to ask, can you tell me the rider and the horse? Do you own the ox? Tell me first if you own it. Because, oh, hey, Chris. So, all right, so you're here. Danny Douglas, what's going on, my man? Great to see you. Hello, and thanks again for your email. Okay, so here's the thing. If you have to, we're going to cover this next week because I'm going to run out of time. there is a certain amount that when I'm running the amp clean, I think about using the amp like I would use a clean combo. And so there's just like, I'd stack up the pedals and I'm using the front. When I start thinking about turning in and turning on the drive channel, then I instantly start thinking about all the sort of stuff that I might have in a clean setting put in front of the amp, but in a dirty setting I would put behind the amp or in the loop. So it means that my perspective is going to change a little bit. Chorus, when I'm using a dirty tone, always goes in the loop. I want to modulate my distorted tone, generally speaking. But when I'm thinking of chorus, but there's different types of modulation. All right, let me get back to this question about reactive load boxes. And Chris, I saw that you're here. We're going to do a delay episode as well. But I think I promised, I need to see if 3 weeks from now I'm still here, which I don't think I no, I will still be here. All right, so 3 weeks from now, Chris Lewis, we're doing a delay episode. All right, getting back to your question about I have an aux, and a Red 7 Evo is the best over my aux and 2 notes. Okay, so I have to be careful because, you know, I don't like to, I always want to be careful of the gear that people own. There are a couple of problems with the aux. Number one, the one that I have that I'm getting ready to sell, it's based on the old not Bluetooth. The heck are you? Gosh darn it! Come on! It's not Bluetooth. It's not Ethernet. It's gigahertz. It's a 2.4 gigahertz, and so basically everybody's router is no longer class compliant. So you can't use. They used to have a really cool app that you could use, but you can't carry that signal through the air. And to the best of my knowledge, they never figured out a way to make it so you could actually hardwire that. So basically, they used all the cool app stuff. It was built on a technology that I don't think they've updated. I need to double check. But basically, you're not able to communicate with it. Number two, it is based on what I understand as the reactive load from a deluxe reverb, which means that when you're using something like a dual rectifier, it's a markedly different amp than a deluxe reverb, which means if you're using the reactive load the way the amp behaves, as if it's seeing this relationship between the amplifier and the speaker that's not actually there, my understanding is that the aux, the emulation of what they're using there is based around a deluxe reverb. It's actually one of the things that in the Waza tube amp expander, you have the ability to adjust the resonance and the presence. And in so doing, you're adjusting the style of amplifier that the reactive load and the quote-unquote fake speaker is emulating, such that the amplifier that it's actually plugged into thinks it's actually seeing the right speaker. So there's this relationship that happens between the two of them. That's a really important part of this. And my favorite thing to do personally, if you're able to have a cabinet somewhere off in some place that you don't care about miking, but it's keeping a load on the amplifier, the best possible thing you can do. And I've got the Celestion Redbacks are great for that. They're 250 watts. I have a pair of them. I actually own 3 of them. I have them in ISO cab, so I can actually run it into that. And if I use a reactive load box, but I use some sort of speaker emulator, I'm able to get there. So to answer your question, to the best of my knowledge, they've never updated the aux, the amp top box. So you're not able to communicate it via iPad. I will double check that. But the unit, it sounds really good. I know lots of people who love it. People love it. They love it. I got 60 seconds. However, for those of us that spend stupid amounts of money on that cabinet and that amplifier and want that sound when you don't put the right type of reactive load or put an actual speaker cabinet with the actual speaker that this frequency curve and its impedance, whatever the heck it's called, is right for what the amp wants to see. The amp isn't going to sound like the amp. It could sound like something really, really cool, but it's not going to sound like when I plug into that cabinet what that sounds like. All right, I got to go. It's a great question. So first of all, Ed May, you are the best human being. So as is everybody else, but I love you, dear. Look at that photo, my dear friend. Okay. I cannot even control it with Windows. All right. Got it. That's Braxel. It's got that. All right. Okay. So in any case, I need to run. I kind of want to stay, but I got to go. And because you have a fabulous day, I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. We're going to do lots of different types of modulation. The next Saturday, we're going to do AB and ABY and splitters. Then the Saturday after that, we're going to do different types of delays. I can't wait. Thanks so much. Have a great one. And thank you for making my day. What a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you. Bye for now.